Hello everyone. Today we are going to study about the forest society and colonialism. Forests are like giant supermarkets of nature. Forests provide many things we use every day, like paper, desks, doors, spices, and even the wrapper on your toffee. They also give us important materials like bamboo and wood for fuel. But forests are disappearing quickly because of things like industrialization and farming. Now, you might wonder, how did we get here? What happened to all those vast, lush forests? Between the years 1700 and 1995, a massive amount of forests were cleared away. Why? To make space for factories and farms. This is a huge deal because forests aren't just groups of trees, they're homes to countless plants and animals and play a critical role in keeping our planet healthy. But why are these forests disappearing? What's causing all this deforestation? The disappearance of forests, known as deforestation, isn't something that just started happening. It's been going on for centuries. However, under colonial rule, the destruction of forests became more systematic and widespread. Speaking of colonial rule, let's take a closer look at how the demand for land changed under their influence. There was a rise in population which led to major changes. As more people needed food, farmers had to clear forests to make room for fields. The British, who ruled over India at the time, wanted to grow crops that they could sell for a lot of money. They encouraged farmers to grow things like jute, sugar, wheat, and cotton, which were in high demand in Europe. But wait, there's more to the story. How did the government view these forests initially? Back then, forests were seen as useless by the government. They thought it was better to turn them into farmland so they could make more money from agriculture. So, between 1880 and 1920, they cleared even more forests to make space for farming. This increased the amount of land used for farming by a lot. But agriculture wasn't the only reason forests were disappearing. There was another big consumer of wood. The demand for wood spiked with the rise of railways in the 1850s. England was running out of oak forests, so they turned to Indian forests. Thousands of trees were cut down for railway sleepers, leading to extensive deforestation along the railway routes. And it wasn't just the railways, there was another reason for clearing out forests. To meet Europe's growing need for commodities like tea, coffee, and rubber, large areas of natural forests were cleared for plantations. The colonial government facilitated this by handing over forests to European planters at low costs. As the British faced their own deforestation issues, they had to think of a solution. This led to the rise of commercial forestry. In India, the British faced deforestation due to the need for wood for railways and ships. To address this, they appointed Dietrich Brand as the first Inspector General of Forests. He advocated for managing forests with rules and science. This led to establishment of the Indian Forest Service in 1864. Enactment of the Indian Forest Act in 1865. Creation of the Imperial Forest Research Institute in 1906, promoting scientific forestry. Implementation of the 1878 Act, categorizing forests into reserved, protected, and village forests. Reserved forests were strictly conserved, while villages could use wood from protected or village forests for essential needs. But while these changes aimed at conservation, they also had a big impact on the lives of local people. The Forest Act brought significant hardships to villagers. Simple daily activities like gathering wood or grazing cattle became illegal. People were forced into difficult situations, often resorting to stealing wood from forests to meet their basic needs. And it wasn't just the gathering of resources that was affected. The practice of shifting cultivation, an age-old agricultural system, was banned. This system, which involved rotating fields to allow soil recovery, was crucial for many communities but was seen as harmful by the colonial government. Shifting cultivation has been practiced in many parts of Asia, Africa and South America. In India, it is known by different names, such as Dhaya, Panda, Bewar, Nevad, Jhum, Podu, Khandad and Kumri. This ban on traditional practices wasn't the only imposition by the colonial government. The forest laws forbade the villagers from hunting in the forests but encouraged hunting as a big sport. They felt that the wild animals were savage, wild and primitive, just like the Indian society, and that it was their duty to civilize them. Despite the restrictions, new opportunities and challenges arose for local communities. New trades and challenges. After the forest department took over, some people benefited from trading forest products. Munduruku peoples in the Brazilian Amazon transitioned from farming to collecting rubber latex for trade. In India, Adivasi communities traded goods like elephants, hides, and spices for centuries. British regulation centralized trade, giving exclusive rights to European firms and restricting local activities like grazing and hunting. This led to loss of livelihoods for communities like the Korova and Yerukula, some labeled criminal tribes. Forced into government-supervised work, conditions were often poor. Opportunities like tea plantation work in Assam didn't improve well-being, with low wages and difficult conditions. The imposition of these new rules and the loss of livelihoods led to significant unrest. Forest communities in India and worldwide rebelled against imposed changes. Leaders like Sidhu and Kanu in the Santhal Parganas, Birsa Munda of Chota Nagpur, and Alluri Sitaram Raju of Andhra Pradesh led movements against British rule, remembered in songs and stories. Let's zoom into one such rebellion to understand the scale of resistance. Let us first learn about the people of Bastar. Bastar, in southern Chhattisgarh, borders Andhra Pradesh, Orissa, and Maharashtra. It has a plateau in the center, with the Chhattisgarh plain to the north and the Godavari plain to the south. The Indravati river flows through Bastar from east to west. Different communities like Maria and Maya Gonds, Dhurvas, Bhatris, and Halbs live there, with their own languages but shared customs. Villagers believe each village got its land from the earth and care for it by making offerings at festivals. They also respect the spirits of the river, forest, and mountain. Villagers manage their resources and boundaries, with a small fee paid for wood from another village's forest. Some villages appoint watchmen to protect forests, supported by grain contributions from households. Village headmen meet annually to discuss communal issues, including forest management. In 1905, the colonial government planned to reserve 2/3 of the forest, banning shifting cultivation, hunting, and collecting forest goods. Some people, called forest villagers, worked for the forest department for free. Villagers faced higher land rents and more demands for labor and goods over time. They began discussing these issues in village councils, bazaars, and festivals. The Dhurwas of the Kangar forest led a rebellion against forest reservation, looting bazaars, burning officials' houses, schools, and police stations, and redistributing grain. British troops were sent to stop the rebellion. Even after independence, the practice of keeping people out of forests for industrial use continued. But the story of resistance isn't unique to India. Similar to India, Java in Indonesia faced its own challenges with deforestation. Java is famous as a rice-producing island in Indonesia. But there was a time when it was covered mostly with forests. In Java, the Dutch started forest management. Villages existed in the fertile plains, and many communities lived in the mountains and practiced shifting cultivation. Java had a special tribe of woodcutters. The Kalangs of Java were skilled forest cutters and shifting cultivators. They were experts in harvesting teak and for the kings to build their palaces. When the Dutch began to gain control over the forests in the 18th century, they tried to make the Kalangs work under them. In 1770, the Kalangs resisted by attacking a Dutch fort at Jona, but the uprising was suppressed. Then, in the 19th century, the Dutch made forest laws in Java to control land, limiting villagers' access. Villagers could only cut wood for specific reasons and faced punishment for breaking rules. Like in India, forests were managed for shipbuilding and railways, leading to a forest service. In 1882, Java exported 280,000 sleepers, needing labor for tree cutting and log transportation. The Dutch initially charged rents on cultivated forest land, exempting some villagers if they provided free labor and buffaloes for timber work. Later, villagers got small wages but lost the right to cultivate forest land. In response to this, there was a struggle. Around 1890, Surontiko Samam from Randublating village questioned state ownership of the forest. Samam argued that since the state didn't create wind, water, earth, and wood, it couldn't own them. This sparked a movement, with Samam's sons-in-law helping organize it. By 1907, 3,000 families supported Samam's ideas. Some Saminists protested by lying down on their land during Dutch surveys. Others refused to pay taxes, fines, or perform labor. This ends the struggle of Java. However, several other regions were facing similar problems. The impact of war on forests further complicated the situation. World wars accelerated deforestation, with the Forest Department cutting trees freely to meet demands. The Japanese occupation in Indonesia saw reckless exploitation of forests for war needs. However, recent developments show a shift in perspective. Since the 1980s, governments in Asia and Africa realized that keeping forest communities away from forests caused conflicts. Conservation, not just timber collection, became a priority. Governments understood that involving people living near forests was crucial for conservation. Some villages now patrol their own forests instead of relying solely on forest guards. Local communities and environmentalists are exploring new ways of forest management. In India, villages protected dense forests in sacred groves like Sarnas and Devarakhudas, ensuring their survival. Conclusion. Through this journey, we were able to learn about the history which tells us the role of colonialists in changes in forest society. We hope that you have understood the topic. You can now study chapter notes, watch video lectures and solve MCQ tests of this chapter on EduRev to ensure you score well in your school exams. And that's not all. You also get amazing courses for maths, science, English, Hindi, and much more for class 9. Thank you.